Hello, and welcome to Interurban Art House's virtual queer experience exhibit for 2022. This video will consist of short clips of an artist's work accompanied with a reading of their artist statements. After we get through the physical artists, we will be showing a series of tape performances done by 2 additional artists.
Greetings.
Now that everything's queer, let's get started.
On your mark, get ready, start.
I am a queer transgender artist who recently moved back to my hometown of Overland Park after living in Oakland, California for the past 13 years. I've loved making art since I was young and started wanting to keep collage journals at the beginning of the pandemic in 2020. I wanted to document my experiences and feelings, as well as make time for reflection and joy through the monotony of those early days. I am interested in exploring consciousness expansion, parallel universes, fluidity, uncertainty, and ambiguity through the universal language of patterns, shapes, colors, and textures. I am drawn to collage as an accessible medium, giving me the ability to create complex, nuanced pieces from multiple source images. This is my first show. In my work, I explore the relationships between material, shape, color, gesture, and mark making. These formal explorations potentially speak to relationships between facets of self, one another, and what we call reality. I assembled salvage materials and everyday objects to create irregular patterns and hopefully activate a sense of deja vu. Maximalist tendencies and minimalist desires are strategically negotiated with each action. I see the tension between blithe rhythms and decay, connected to a lineage of queered and coded abstract language. I feel that abstraction itself is a sort of queering of reality. For me, abstraction is both the language I use to explore deeper connections to my queerness and also the formula in which that language develops. Lately, I've been interested in distilling this visual vocabulary down to its essence, investigating queer semiotics extracted from media and memory. Visual poems point to the in-between spaces and places, and what is learned there. The work in this exhibition are playful, experimental improvisations on loss, trauma, recovery, self-acceptance, and the nexus of queer angst and joy. They reflect through lines of identity, containing the drift and accumulation of time. Throughout the course of my residency at Interurban Art House, I will continue to develop work around these concepts. I encourage you to stop by my studio and see related work in progress. In my work, I mainly tend to focus on capturing my feelings through color. Most of my work involves bright, vibrant colors because it reminds me of that feeling of childhood nostalgia. I love creating detailed pieces full of color with the skills that I have now as an adult, as a way of proving to my younger self that without her, I wouldn't be able to create the pieces that I do now. As I've grown up, making friends and losing them, falling in and out of love, and finding my own voice rather than sitting by while others speak for me, have all been huge factors in molding me into who I am today as a person and as an artist. I can be bossy, I can be blunt, and I can be selfish, but there's nothing selfish about being who I am versus the person other people expect me to be. This piece was inspired by colorful pop art and the Illuminati iconography. As a queer person, eyes always feel as if they are judging, good or bad, and I feel this piece reflects that. June is Pride Month, time to honor diversity in terms of sexual orientation and gender identity, as well as the array of experiences, struggles, and visions that LGBTQIA+ people bring to the world. I am happy to be a part of this show, the queer experience at Interurban Art House. I am a lesbian and an abstract artist. These are my identities that I have had the privilege to struggle with in my life. Organic abstractions and whimsical pieces start out with something that caught my attention, a reflection, color, light, a feeling about something or someone. From there it grows spontaneously into its own being. My work is a direct response to my experiences as a queer person working as a designer in an audience-motivated industry. In 2022, my love, my body, my voice, and my story are not considered appropriate for general consumption, and are often disguised, filtered, or edited to create a product that is easily digestible. My body is not indecent, my story is not inappropriate, and my voice does not need to be edited. pieces presented here are unapologetic, unedited, and unfiltered. My hope is that they will inspire others to reject all of the forms of sugarcoating and reduction used to make us palatable, because we are delicious exactly as we are. I use my work to explore mechanisms of desire, pleasure, and transformation that oriented with my experience as a queer and transgender male. I pull from my desires when creating work, believing that our erotic experience is a place of true knowledge. The work heavily references leather, BDSM, kink, fetish, etc., as I am interested in the overlapping concerns between painting and leather. As practices, they are both driven by aesthetics, fetishized material, and can be physically and/or psychologically transformative for their participants. I push the illusory qualities of the paint to perverse ends by treating the canvas with a technique to make it look like leather. Other times, the canvas is replaced by paint itself because of the likeness between the acrylic paint skin and rubber, another eroticized material with its own subculture. In this way, the painting does not just depict a material, but embodies it. Matthew lives in Olathe, Kansas, with his mom, dad, cat, and chickens. Matthew is 17 years old and enjoys playing with his cat and visiting his chickens, aside from creating and tinkering. I first learned to weld when I was 12, Matthew says. It is very calming for me to watch the metal get hot and pool together. Now I have moved on from simple, elementary projects and have started working on a much larger scale with more technical pieces. Matthew said, I have dabbled in a lot of things, such as jewelry, greeting cards, and photography, but I've always come back to welding. Estas manos, or these hands, focuses on the mundane yet intimate acts we perpetrate with our hands on a daily basis. Our hands are expressive and often tell the stories of our lives with a simple glimpse into their composition. For the Queer Experience exhibition, I have chosen to paint hands belonging to queer, BIPOC people engaging in moments or actions that allow the subject to live in their truth. Hands provide an entrance into creating connections with other people, things, and spaces. It is within those interactions that the lives and truths of queer people exist. We exist inside our chosen art forms or within small, quiet moments where we contemplate life, and within these fleeting moments, we discover ourselves. The lives of queer people can be as loud or as quiet as we want them to be, and their presence is valid, in whatever form we choose to share them with the world. 2022 is a year of transformation. Life after gender-affirming surgery has felt like nothing I've ever experienced. I feel alive in ways I didn't think I was capable of. I feel at peace and present in a body that has never been home. As I settle into my authenticity and my body, I find myself able to show up in ways that weren't possible before. I have more space to give, more boundaries for myself and others, more room to grow and to love. Relational love with my built community and chosen family has truly saved my life. My queer experience has been filled with a roller coaster of emotions and events, but I wouldn't change it for anything. I have found friendship, accountability, support, love, laughter, and an intimacy like no other. There is beauty and comfort in darkness. It just makes the light that much brighter. The elusive and unpredictable nature of watercolor makes it both a challenge and a delight for me. With watercolor, I'm able to capture the essence of my subject, intentionally balancing controlled definition to help you see with blurred edges to let you enter. In this way, I invite the viewer to join me, bring something of yourself to the work, to touch the paper with your experience, your memories, your story. I'm a painter, but I begin each piece by drawing. Using pencil or ink, I learn to see each subject before painting. Once I have an understanding of the subject, I am set free to paint with spontaneity and joy. Gender is a spectrum, and with the work I submitted, I hope to showcase this and break away from the gender stereotypes forced onto simple concepts like shape and color. I hope that one day these stereotypes will no longer be the status quo, and people will be free to express their gender and sexuality without fear. In my Color Explosion series, I use color and gestural movement to visually play, creating vibrant abstract impasto paintings with many rainbows to get lost in. Making these paintings helps me self-regulate as an autistic person and brings me joy. The details are as beautiful as the whole. With the Here and Queer series, I explore my identity as a queer person through colorful abstract and text paintings. Variation and accidents enthrall me, and I eschew rigid technological uniformity in all aspects of my work. At the same time, I use technology to create various components of my work. My patterns are created by hand and digitized with minimal alteration. I'm fascinated by the ways technology can be used to build art, while still fully maintaining the presence of the human hand in the result. My purely abstract works are playful and colorful, and are an instinctual exploration of the reactions humans have to color and pattern. I break things down into the simplest pieces and play with the different ways they can be recombined, seeking to understand my own basic responses to visual stimuli, and thus something of humanity as a whole. In the process of making 2D or 3D art, I add what makes sense and subtract what doesn't. That is a process that can take years or realize in a day. What I add or what I keep represents my history, dreams, memories, and personal aesthetic. I want the finished piece to translate the psychological loop and tell a complete story. I have maintained my professional contemporary art practice for over 40 years. In that time, I received my BFA in painting at Kansas University, my MFAs in painting and ceramics at Washington University in St. Louis. I exhibit widely in the US and Europe. Currently, my indoor-outdoor studio is in Kansas City, Kansas. The development of my visual language took on new heights while living in London, Boston, Los Angeles, and various cities in the Midwest. Most vividly, I worked in an AIDS hospice for 5 years. The experiences at the hospice are forever seared into my always expanding queer abstract language. Growing up, there were a lot of harmless, often even healthy things I was raised to judge, fear, or be ashamed of. Sexuality, mysticism, gender identity, even asking for help. Some of my art reflects a lot of my personal journey overcoming those beliefs. Some of it is to simply take what others have been taught to find distasteful and portray it as beautiful. Normalizing and celebrating our differences isn't just about big issues. It's about what makes us happy and healthy and fulfilled. Hello, my name is Bo and my pronouns are they/he. I am a gender-fluid artist in Kansas City, Missouri. Currently, I'm a student at Metropolitan Community College, Penn Valley, in the graphic design program. Next spring, I will be graduating with my associates in graphic design by spring of 2023. 2021 and 2022 have been full of learning, stress, and experiences. I began to look inside and reflect on all that I have accomplished in my career as an artist and designer. Being a queer artist and designer with autism has its struggles, but I am proud of the progress that I have made. This year, I have begun to use my energy in expressing how I am feeling at that moment, using what I see in my head as inspiration for my pieces. Taking that inspiration, I created Masked. Not only have I been learning to accept myself as an autistic queer person, I began to unravel my view of me and my identity as a queer person. I created confusion as my way of processing my identity. I am so excited to be able to present my work at Interurban Art House. I want to say thank you to everyone involved. I am extremely humbled and honored to present my work. Enjoy! Visual art and poetry have been in conversation since the time of the ancient Greeks. I pair original photographs and poems that speak to one another. Through my photographs, I have become a student of nature and the beauty it offers to us every day. I explore places such as parks and gardens to capture examples of this. I am taken in by shadows, reflections, and various life cycles I see. Usually, I spend some time with a photograph before I write about it. There have been times, however, in which the scene sparked an idea as soon as I saw it. I went home and wrote the poem immediately. I look for something in each picture that will convey a universal concept. As you look at my work, I hope you will join in the conversation. Do you see what I see, or do you have another story to tell? S.K. Reed, she/they, born in 1992, is an artist living in Kansas City, Kansas. Currently, they are an MFA student at the University of Kansas. They have exhibited regionally at Curiouser and Curiouser and the Kansas City Artists Coalition, and nationally at Ground Floor Gallery in Nashville and Automat in Philadelphia. Recently, they had a solo exhibition titled Myth at Lady Volkos Art Center in Kansas City, featuring a large painting on the floor the viewer could step into, ceramic vessels and heads, a wall painted like a wood-grained floor, and a sheer curtain viewers had to walk through when entering the space. Their recent work explores the strangeness associated with being a queer body, the difference between the liberation felt within oneself and the ways they feel their body is being perceived by others. A new character named Creature engages with the more than human world as a guide and teacher to counter ways of being. This self-portrait named Drowning was deeply inspired by the excruciating pain caused by all forms of derogatory attitude towards people and myself. My past has been scarred by frequent events of mental abuse and depression. Later in life, this has left me with multiple mental issues including social anxiety, PTSD, OCD, and depression. We all have times where the weight becomes so much where we feel we cannot breathe, or more or less, drowning. Sometimes we try so hard to keep our heads above the water that we tire ourselves even more without noticing, and this becomes a relentless cycle. But in the end, we're all in this together. The power of love and compassion extinguishes all evil. So please be kind to one another, because you never know when someone is drowning. This series of drawings originated during the pandemic and are a response to home and solitude. My education has been as a biologist and a sociologist. The majority of my career has been spent in the practice of environmental public health, whether I was making double exposures with a brownie as a boy, photographing chromosomes and cells in college, or documenting environmental conditions as an adult professional. Photography has always been a part of my life. I have come to understand the world through the lens of a camera. In 2006, I began exploring the medium as an artistic outlet. For me, a photograph is not a static entity. It takes a moment and allows it to be preserved for later contemplation. My images are extracted from daily life, and after spending time in my head, eventually becoming photographs. I've explored urban social portraiture without people, captured an entire year in a single work, discovered what the night looks like in my backyard, and investigated the landscape of missing buildings. In 2013, I began using a tablet to make digital drawings based on my science background. This practice is an exploration of everything from subatomic to microscopic to the sociological and cosmological, new ways to look at familiar things. Essentially, that's what my work is about, using the camera and other digital devices in different ways to shift the paradigm of daily life. My work has been shown in a variety of local, regional, and national exhibitions, and is in numerous collections in the US. I am afraid that people won't like my art. I don't really have enough time to draw every day. About 6 months ago, with these thoughts, I stopped drawing daily after my daily meditation. I only drew when I had time, and some of the detailed drawings took several weeks to finish. I wasn't excited about drawing, and it felt like a chore. During a recent spring meditation retreat, while in deep meditation, I got the message, "Close your eyes, start drawing and trust your intuition." Despite having doubt, I closed my eyes and drew, and soon I was growing excited and energized, trusting the flow of creativity. Now, setting my timer for 20 minutes, I realize I can draw for at least 20 minutes every day. My drawings often express what is revealed through meditation as I go through personal joys and challenges in life. Some titles initially come in a dream before the drawing, while other titles are created to inspire me and those experiencing my art. As a native Mexican, culture and tradition are a vital part of my heritage. As a Mexican American, I am fascinated by the dialogue between different cultures and traditions. As an artist, I explore personal experiences, emotions, and connections through the lens of my past and present in order to create a vibrant future. Through my work, I strive to increase social awareness of the many parts of my intersectional identity and experience as a Mexican American member of the LGBTQ community. My early work focuses on the legacy of Mexican culture and its collision with the American experience. Major inspirations include Mexican colonial-style La Catrina, the elegant skull, and other culturally significant symbols such as La Tarija Mexicana, Mexican bingo, papel picado, perforated tissue paper, and talavera. I use a variety of materials, including acrylic paint, ink, gels, sand, paper mache, spray paint, and more to modernize, revive, and reinvent the Mexican art that inspires me. Through each piece, I seek to convey a unique yet universal sense of being, feeling, or thought. I hope to challenge stereotypes, commercialization, and commodification, and the arbitrary barriers we create between our shared humanity. My point of view emerges from varied perspectives on language, cultural differences, race, cultural bias, and more. My process is meditative and expressive, an expulsion of demons and a dispensation of beauty. By crafting original artworks inspired by Mexican folklore, diverse communities, and daily experiences, I endeavor to bridge the gap between past and present as a modern Mexican-American artist.
Ahafia Yurkovich-Miles is a queer trans musician and theater artist. Their passion is writing and performing in works that explore queerness, especially in music. Through music, storytelling, and historical research, I strive to bring the voices of my community to life in a way that I hope invites queer folks to see themselves reflected and allows non-queer folks to resonate and understand our culture in a deeper, more human way. I see myself more as a conduit of these personalities and stories than a centered performer. My focus so far has been on classical composers, which has made me feel more connected to my queer elders and provides me a broader, more compassionate scope of understanding the queer community in all its joys and flaws.
I'm five things. Two of them are I'm homosexual and I am alcoholic. And the alcoholism is what's called recovered alcoholic. So I've not a drink of any sort in 34 years, I think. You're born that way. I'm also an atheist and a pacifist, totally atheist and totally pacifist. And I'm a composer, that's the fifth thing. And the only thing that is problematic is the composer. People don't know what you're talking about if you say you're a composer. But you are a composer or you aren't, and you know that pretty early.
I know I can compose and I know how, but I don't know why I came to this instead of to sculpture or to poetry or perhaps even to dance. After chattering every known musical speech for the last 10 years, of imitating now one school and then another, after wanting to become famous by writing like the famous, I have decided to, again, write like I did at 11 when I knew no one. My music, from my heart, with my own influences. If I am a significant American composer, it is only because I've never tried to be new. It is more pertinent to be better than it is to be different. I am capable of anything except experimentation because I am an American Protestant. But I am content with my work. cycle of holy songs, the ballet for Jerry. How I love the French. And I love Americans too for their youthful sweetness in apologizing for every daily action. What is music? It's what musicians do. It's what any given listener feels it to be. It's any sequence of sounds and silences capable of moving at least one heart. The music may move us, but it won't change us. The exposure to music may change us, but one may be exposed for years with immunity. And not the music itself. It can only awake and make us more what we already are. But then, what is good music? Music that is good for you, that disturbs involuntarily, like an erection. Last words of Ned Rorem, crushed by a truck, gnawed by the pox, stung by wasps in dire pain. How do I look? It is harder to maintain a reputation for being pretty than it is to be a great artist. On the Boulevard de Batignolles last Sunday evening was a bicyclist who, walking, turned 3 times to look at me and then vanished. For my part, this is a love I will never forget. Unhad love is sweeter. If 2 people find each other on the street, they will be in bed together an hour later. But how? My desire is to turn and run. What have they said to each other between street and bed? Or if I find myself on the way to bed, I think, it happened last time, but how will it happen this time? Then there being no mystery, I invent an excuse and vanish. Because I know I would want to reduce myself to that delicious idiocy that is true love. If 2 people find each other on the street, but stronger still is my fright of losing independence. In Europe, I've been twice in love, 3 or 4 times almost in love, and 5 or 6 additional times not quite almost in love. Had 1 or 2 or 300 one-night stands, and had 100 or 200 people in love with me. And this is by far the most important. It is greater to be loved than to love. In Europe, I've been twice in love, yet my step is my own and nobody else's. But the reason that I'm learning Italian since 3 days ago is because last week I met someone on the outskirts of Pavia, about whom I brood incessantly with that pleasant nausea that comes at the beginnings of love. And though it is a sheer invention which may never be of use, for the instant it's as precious as a beating blue heart in a crystal box. A feeling that makes us wish to say, I love you. So leave the room, that I may suffer your absence agreeably, that I may tell friends how happy I am, so that expectancy for your return may be stronger, so that I may learn Italian and come maybe next week to visit you. Oh, I'm glad to know that nothing will ever kill the capacity for wanting to fall in love. Now, I wish just for the knowledge of the simplicity of lovemaking. If two people find each other on the street, they will be in bed together an hour later. What have they said to each other between street and bed? In Europe, I've been twice in love, 2 or 3 times almost in love, and had 100 or 200 people in love with me. And is this really the most important? Last week, I met Pino, about whom I brood incessantly with that pleasant nausea that comes at the beginnings of love. Will I never know that lovemaking is a thing of nature? If we found each other on the street, I wish just for the knowledge of the simplicity of lovemaking. I am dominated by this impossible situation of love and no longer think of music. Pino, his eyes all naive, is excited by an article on me in the Milanese Derby, which appeared coincidentally with my arrival in Italy on Saturday. Pino was born a twin and will live and die in this gloomy, unheard of village with a great heart, dear arms, animated ways, and a preoccupation with what us ambitious ones name the simple pleasures. Why are these worlds such oceans apart? Yet it is just these primary distances that make our chests bloom impossibly. I cannot stay here forever with him as though I were like him, without those facilities which are myself. But then, where can I live? Everyone knows what being gay is, because everyone has tried to pretend that they were, to see what it feels like. And everyone knows what an alcoholic is. Atheism is a conviction that comes from a certain experience, and so is pacifism. As for music's meaning, Mendelssohn said it's not too vague for words, it's too precise. But then, he didn't define precise.
M. Pulowski Moore is a poet, writer, and storyteller. He has 5 volumes of poetry, including the Lambda Award nominee Burning Blue. His compositions reflect diverse themes and interpretations of prejudice, racism, socioeconomic inequality, homophobia, and systemic oppression. He is the recipient of numerous accolades, including a Phi Beta Kappa Artistic Creation Award for his collection of poems Silver Lion, awarded a Writer's Digest Certificate of Merit for the collection of poems Kaleidoscope, and a Sammy Davis Jr./Zora Neale Hurston Award for Arts and Humanities. He is a contributing poet to the Civil Rights Memorial Center, Southern Poverty Law Center community poem A Civil Community, a new exhibit that will be featured inside the final gallery of the Civil Rights Memorial Center. In 1984, he served as a torchbearer in the 1984 Olympic Torch Relay.
Greetings, I am M. Pulowski Moore, Silver Lion poet, and I wish to share with you a reading of a poem written by me titled Coming Home. When artillery bullets whizzed around him, buzzing in the air with doom, dust, death, he cherished thoughts of him. And when mortar shells whistled, exploded, spitting splinters in a fury of hellfire, sound, smoke, shrapnel, he could not forget the love left behind and found the courage to brave the advancing assaults. The soldier fought through the darkness of war, trials of gunfire, echoes of insanity, praying that he would not perish on some dirt road in a derelict village or in the rubble of a strange city or in a barren, battered field as a broken body abandoned to crows and vultures. Through it all, he kept him shielded in his faith, recalling their last night before his departure, how they sat silently beneath a moonless sky, reassured by the precious moments of sharing stars, both of them knowing that tomorrow was only a dream of water, easily altered and washed away. Today is a beautiful day. Beneath a cloudless sky, the soldier has come home. Heart and soul reunite. They share sunlight, the warmth of reunion, the gift of promises kept. They close their eyes to the clamoring cacophony of the gathering crowd, to the hustle of the streets. In a moment of loving and being loved, they float beyond convention, scrutiny, judgment, care, and lose themselves blissfully in a kiss. Thank you very much for listening. Greetings, I am M. Pulowski Moore, Silver Lion Poet, and I wish to share with you the following poem that I wrote. It is titled Father and Son. I learned of hate from my father when I was still young enough to dream in painterly pastels and believe that I was most dear to him as he was to me. I recall a cool evening in spring. Passionately, I pranced across the living room floor. I closed my eyes. My shirt became a crown of flowing hair. I was a flame, dancing diaphanous. I began to sway, spinning through aqua air, happy, beautiful, enchanting. His voice boomed, breaking the magic moment. No, Father shouted. Not this. His voice pounded me down. My son will not be this. His venom sprayed like fire. It burned my soul, singed my spirit. I learned that father could be a dragon. Fear beyond any nightmare. He could roar like violent thunder, make me tremble like a weed. You're soft, lip-wristed, light on your feet. Ain't no fags in this family. My son ain't gonna be no sissy. I'll beat it out of you. He said those words, said what he meant. Followed through and beat me. Far away from him, and I never quite recovered. But that is a scene from a time long gone. 5 years ago, my father passed. Nothing resolved, no healing. He was beyond the mystery of me. I was authentic. He was unyielding, leaving me half the man he wanted me to be, but wholly myself, strong, resilient, brave, true. Thank you kindly for allowing me to share this poem with you. And for all those who are out there struggling and searching for acceptance and a place, know that there is light out there waiting to embrace you and lift you up. Thank you. Greetings, I am M. Pulowski Moore, Silver Lion Poet, and I wish to share with you the reading of a poem that I wrote. This poem is dedicated to the memory of the many beautiful spirits, souls, artists, writers, blue-collar workers, wives, husbands, sons, daughters, all those who perished during the height of the HIV/AIDS epidemic. The poem is titled Old Friends Revisited. My friends wave at me from the car windows of discontinued models, while blowing kisses and singing songs from faded artists. They dance in phantom clubs where parking lots and high-rises now stand. My friends sit in our favorite booth at the Greasy Spoon, that cool spot where we nursed hangovers, gossiped, cruised candy, where we sat bleary-eyed, too tired to go home, and watched the after-hours parade of oddities, dilettantes, leather-clad cops, delicious daddies. Yes, my friends float and reappear here, in the same place where a wireless digital jukebox now plays. I revisit, remember them, as they were when these old haunts were fresh, fabulous, inspired, new. I close my eyes, and we are all together again, singing, dancing, embracing, laughing, dreaming. Thank you very much for allowing me to share this poem with you.